What was I going to say? I think AI needs to be paused altogether for a while so that we can reassess and figure out what we're doing. I think that's fair. I want to try to front load that opinion from now on. You know what I mean? So that people know where I'm at. However, what I'm actually here to talk about is Hamlet and No Fear Shakespeare. Now, when I was probably 16, I had a thespian professional stand in front of a class full of other kids and berate me very rudely over a question that I asked. I asked their opinion on No Fear Shakespeare. They said that they had gotten that question all the time. What I'm saying is this was clearly a performance that had been done in front of other classes to other kids. So he was just happy that he got to go ahead and do this to me. What No Fear Shakespeare is that it is a SparkNotes translation of the original text of different Shakespeare plays in modern English so that people can understand it, and it puts them side by side so you can read the original and read the new text, and it makes it easier to consume the story because you can just go ahead and do this thing. It's written, I don't know if it's Old English specifically, but it's old and it is English, and nobody talks like this anymore. And so basically what he did was he read out the two, and he's like, I get this question a lot, this is what I think about No Fear Shakespeare. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going through the whole thing. And then he says, the No Fear Shakespeare version, to die or not to die. And then he proceeds to go into this long tirade about how it has destroyed all of the art in the poetry, discouraging any of these kids from ever picking up one of these books, and implying that they would be shaming Shakespeare himself if they were to do so. Now, I looked down, but I didn't actually read it. It says, the question is this: is it better to be alive or dead? Is it nobler to put up with all the nasty things that luck throws your way, or to fight against all those troubles by simply putting an end to them once and for all? Dying, sleeping, that's all dying is. Blah, 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 blah. I felt more of an emotional connection reading it when I could properly feel it and understand it and comprehend it the way my brain speaks. This may as well be another language if you're not going to say it in a manner that people can understand. To branch a little, I think that academic text is written in a jargon that most people cannot understand. And what I'm learning from reading through more of these books more actively these days is that it's not hard to change that. And the reason why it doesn't change is because there's a lot of people who can understand stuff who just don't want other people to be able to. And so this thespian, who I guess has spent enough time understanding that, or at least can recite it in front of a class, because they didn't actually know what the No Fear Shakespeare version even said, not even the main line. They didn't even quote it properly. So do you know what you're talking about, or have you not encountered this thing? And so therefore you're telling children not to use it in order to understand really important art from the past that is written in a different language, because you wouldn't tell someone who doesn't speak Mandarin that they should pick up the Mandarin copy of any book for any reason, because that just wouldn't make sense. So Shakespeare literally speaks a different version of English. And it wasn't until 12th grade that I got a single class talking about the history of the English language. I hadn't heard the word Anglo-Saxon before 12th grade. 12th. We did the nouns, we did the verbs, we did the participles, we did all that stuff that I can't name those rules right now However, I'm a writer. I can use them, but I use them so that people understand me, not so that I can be beholden to certain rules in order to flex on people, I guess. But when you're reading some of these academic texts, it's like, no, you could really just rework the language here, and this would be easier. And what is wrong with a side-by-side comparison of the two so that people understand what this thing says? I don't see a problem with that, but apparently that's not okay. And I think that that leads me into my overall point here that I started with, is that I don't like the times in which I feel compelled to use AI to help me out these days, because I know. But for me, I want to learn, and I don't have a lot of energy. So I put in some text and asked it to create a No Fear Shakespeare for me so that I can read and compare the two side by side and learn it myself and figure out how to read this type of stuff, because some of this stuff is written in a esoteric fashion. I think that's the right word. I'm not sure. I'll look it up, hopefully put it on the screen. But it's written in a way that people don't freaking understand. And whether or not I use that word properly, it wouldn't help you understand if you just don't know, when I could say things could be written in a manner so that everyone can understand them, because literally politicians are able to preach to any base. So you can get people to believe or know whatever is necessary. And more people would know things instead of believing things if the important and true stuff was written in a way that other people can understand. And that's an issue. Because, yeah, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune sounds really cool. And I think that that can be understood better by someone who has heard, is it nobler to put up with all the nasty things that luck throws your way, or to fight against all those troubles and simply put an end to them? That is still poetry. And I think that our conversation about AI bleeds into a conversation about anti-intellectualism that I think is important to have specifically in this moment, because we're dealing with both. And I think we need to pause AI because the manner at which it's growing is not feasible and not salvageable for our earth. And it's not ethical for anybody. But you can run LLMs locally on your computer. They're not as powerful as but it doesn't need to talk to you and have back and forth feedback and see your face. You just can, and that will be very helpful to process lots of text for people who can't. The reason why kids are cheating is because you're expecting them to give you a piece of paper which you can judge their ability to do a thing. And that's not actually doable for anything. There is nothing that anyone does that they haven't had to prove with an artistic endeavor. Everything that is good, everything that is important has had input, has had self in it. And that's not what you want at school. I want to know that you did the subject and then the main idea and then in MLA format, and if you didn't do that, I'm going to give you an incomplete or something. Even though the text could be something important from the heart of this child, I don't really care. I just need to be able to stick it in turnitin.com and know that you didn't copy it from somewhere and move on. And that's not the teacher's fault. That's the entire system that we've built to grade people to get them through. Because in your job, what they want for you is to do what we tell you to do and be able to hit these markers on this sheet of paper so we can plug it in and see how much money we made. That's important. And so that's it. That's what we're judged on. But in reality, there's more to learning than just producing the essay. If the goal is produce the essay, then yes, put it in ChatGPT and print out an essay so that you can get through this thing. Because in life as an adult, you're just going to have to get through it. And you're not going to like work, and that's just going to be what it is. And people are going to go, well, that's just the way the world is. You're not supposed to create. You're not supposed to express yourself. You're just supposed to do what we told you to do for 8 hours every day. So you get up with your parents and you go to work, and then you come home and you go back to work. It's teaching you to do that. That's what it's for. So it's not about that. So it's not about actually writing, creative writing, teaching children how to express themselves, because you actually don't want them to do that. You cannot produce a product of yourself by just telling ChatGPT to do it for you. You can't do that. And the amount of back and forth required to get ChatGPT to write something that comes from your heart, I'd say it came from your freaking heart. You went back and forth with it for a long time. You didn't just ask it one prompt and then you sat there and went, these are all my life things. These are the things that I care about. This is what and it gave you text and you read it and went, actually, I don't think change, blah, 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 because this isn't expressing what I'm trying to say. That's a possible way to use this thing. I would love for somebody to learn how to write by talking to a machine and it teaches them to do a thing the way that humans are able to do that. But we have to pay for it in our society. So do it at home. I'm not going to judge somebody for that. I don't like that corporations are going to burn our earth because they want to create sentient thingies right now that they're going to mistreat. Like, I don't need that. But I think this is very valuable. Because I think No Fear Shakespeare was valuable, and I didn't read a single bit of extra Shakespeare for the rest of high school because I couldn't understand it, so I just felt stupid because this adult who did it professionally told me that I was stupid. He didn't say that, but he implied that, yeah, his speech was long and all the kids were kind of, and it didn't feel good to ask, what do you think about this? And I asked excitedly because I had read Hamlet. And I understood Hamlet, and none of my classmates understood Hamlet. And this dude could at least recite that whole paragraph and shame a kid for learning something in a method that he just felt wasn't important because somehow he just popped out the womb understanding Old English, I guess, or somebody taught him. We're in a society where we discourage people from giving. We're in a society where we discourage getting things for free or asking for things for free. So I don't understand why cheating is suddenly such a bad thing. When it's to get a grade on a thing so I can just move up a letter, a number, in order to get closer to giving labor to the government. Because that's all that it is, right? So I'm not going to shame anybody for using what they can use to get what they need to get in the time. I'm just not. Because everything is unethical. And if you're not hurting anybody, then fine. But if all of us stopped using ChatGPT today, they'd still be figuring out ways to burn the earth. And they'd still be building it, and they'd feed it its own stuff, or they'd make people write things into it to feed it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that there's no culpability whatsoever, but there's no amount of every ordinary day recycling that's gonna fix any of that stuff. You know what I mean? They tricked us with the ozone layer thing by making it the hairspray. It was all these companies producing all this crap. They stopped making the chemical. If companies stopped making paper towels, well, then trees wouldn't come down anymore. It's not our fault because we use a thing that exists at the dollar store that's helpful for cleaning up stuff. When you're autistic and you don't want to touch that cold, nasty rag, like, it's not your fault. It's not. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be conscious or try to recycle, participate in the effort to be better. Do that. But don't sit here judging people for stuff. You know what I mean? Things that exist, that are utility, should be used. And if the only thing that you're cheating is like your own decisions and you're only screwing up your own life, I don't think you should. You shouldn't let this thing make decisions for you. But I think you should have it explain text to you if you don't understand it, and give you bullet points of what it's trying to say, and tell you exactly which words mean what things. Because if that makes you a reader and you used to not be and you're not right now because of shame, and the reason you shouldn't do that is because it would be less shameful for you to do it yourself, and you don't have the energy or whatever, then because that's the excuse that we use in our stupid society to just keep doing bad stuff, is that nobody knows how to, but we don't even let each other learn things. So what are we doing? You know? So yeah, read No Fear Shakespeare. A lot of these are online for free. This, I've got a PDF I just typed into Google. I didn't even try to find like underground. Google just gave me a free one for No Fear Shakespeare. I mean, SparkNotes owns it, and I bet nobody's buying these books anymore because all the people who have thespian mentors are probably telling them the same thing. Don't use that. Just sit there and ponder this crazy text that no one's going to explain to you. It's like playing spades. No one's going to teach you, but you're supposed to know. Like, let's just build a whole society like that. I'm done ranting, okay? If you're seeing this, give me an animal and I'll draw it on a sticky note and I'll put it on my freaking board. That's a thing too. Yeah. So turn your head from side to side. To be or not to be? That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing them end them, to die, to sleep no more. That's as much as I remember. I think that's from Jimmy Neutron. I don't even know if it's a good impression.